Welcome everybody back to Superpower Alliance. This is our December headquarters. And so I just can't even believe it. We're already moving into the holidays. It's an exciting and busy time. And today we have Clare Rosoman. Am I saying your name right, Clare?
You are.
Okay. And I got to know Clare through some other trainings. And then I started following her on Instagram and I thought, my goodness, what can this woman not do? You're such a gifted trainer and your voice is so important to the EFT world. And I also am very grateful for your support of this group. You have passed it on to, it's kind of your network. And because of you, I think we have probably 50 Australian members.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting. And so I just appreciate your support. And you also made us a graphic that we have now decided is our like sort of standard graphic for Superpower Alliance. You created that for us in your spare time. So I'm grateful and I'm so happy you're here. And I want to start us off with the question that I'm going to ask every guest. And that question is, and I'm going to give a little bit of a context to the question, because for those of you that are just now listening and maybe just now tuning in and don't know what we're talking about when we say superpower, this isn't just what you're good at, right? That might be what we think of when we hear that word, like, oh, something sort of flashy and shiny. The way that I'm thinking about it is this might be something that you used to not be so proud of, or you used to hide, or like a tender part of you that once you've integrated that into your being, that it actually really impacts how you work. So we're thinking of this in a professional sense. Obviously, we know that's true in relationships, but I think it also is true for how we work. And so, my example is being hearing impaired. That used to be something I would hide my hearing aids. But now I'm very, happy to talk about it because I know that this is also a part of me that helps me to be very attuned, especially to nonverbals. So that's kind of setting the stage for what a superpower is in our context. Clare, what is your superpower?
What a great question. I love it. And I've been thinking about that. um, I think my superpower is having a too busy, too fast brain that zips all over in a million directions, and I have a million things in the air, and then I can hyper focus on one and drive people around me a bit nuts because I need to get it done and I need things crossed off my list. And so I feel like that can be too fast or too one track. And I think that in the past, maybe I felt kind of bad about that, thinking, oh, I'm neglecting other things, or I have to focus on this one thing before I can then be able to relax, and that then neglects family members and things. So I think that is probably something that I felt is a bad thing, and now I've come to embrace and think, actually having a really busy mind means I work really fast. Like, people are always saying, oh, you're so fast, and I do get a lot done. So I really embrace it as a superpower. I have two kids with ADHD. I probably maybe have I don't know, but it's a fast brain. Is it ADHD? Don't know, but it's giving me more of an understanding of different brain styles. And in doing that, I've embraced my own brain style a tad more and thought, well, if I have a busy, fast brain, just keep going, just do stuff and then rest. Make sure you rest and have other things to try and keep you from burning out. But I actually find it energizing. So I have to choose the things that I throw my energy into. And that's where actually Instagram and creating posts has been a really good outlet for a busy mind, but a really creative outlet that doesn't cause stress.
I love that. That's such a beautiful segue into what we're talking about. But I first want to acknowledge what you're saying. And I wish we had a whole afternoon together, because I too have a very fast, busy brain that I felt sort of like wanting to apologize for. Wears people out, like they can't keep up with you, that type of thing. But what I see in you, Claire, is this is your leadership. You know, you are shining so brightly, and you are able to accomplish a lot. And so when and people want to follow you. So I'm glad that you're embracing it as a superpower. And I also hear you say that that fast brain needs a creative outlet,
Yeah.
right? And so that's kind of actually, what other people would see as work is a bit of rest for you.
Yeah.
That with being able to put your energy in toward something very just strictly creative helps you to slow down, helps you to kind of like use that energy towards something. I love that. So with your experience of just putting, these beautiful content and images and kind of finding your own, I really feel like you have a very distinct style. If you haven't followed Claire on Instagram specifically is what I'm thinking of, you've got to look her up. She's a very kind of like, I wouldn't even have to know, like I could see it and it would not have your name on it, and I would know, oh, that's one of Claire's. But I'm just curious, what have you noticed? How has it been, or has it been helpful for your business, for your group practice, for just, maybe you as a trainer, because I know we can choose from lots of different trainers to have come and, do trainings for us. Have you noticed that it has helped you in any way or opened any doors?
Totally. I think we met through Instagram.
Mhm.
And I met Deb and Naomi through Instagram. It was Deb seeing my posts and us talking on Instagram that led to me going on that relationship show. I think it allows you to be more known. People get a feel for who you are and what you stand for, and that I think is the real value. I don't know if it's translated into referrals in my group practice. It's hard to tell. There are nifty, look, when you asked me to talk about social media, I thought, I'm not an expert at this. There are experts who can track exactly who's looking at your posts and when they go to your website and when it translates into a referral. And I haven't done any of that high tech stuff, so I don't really know. But I feel like as a trainer, it really puts my voice out there of how I like to think about EFT concepts and how I can support therapists. And by making the post, they then become resources that people can use. And so that's really my focus, is getting the EFT concepts out there, but providing support through resources for therapists. So I think it has led to more international connections, and maybe it's led to more people coming to my training, because I'm targeting in my Instagram account, I'm targeting more therapists, but it's sort of general concepts that they could use with their clients, and maybe they could be tools they could give their clients. So it's more speaking to therapists. So I think it's probably translated into more people coming to my trainings, perhaps, but I don't really know.
No, I mean, you're saying a lot of important things. I think, and I agree with you. One of the things that I hear you say is maybe it's not actually for therapists, and this is good for everybody listening. Maybe it's not the best return on investment as far as time spent for direct referrals. Maybe that's not how we don't need to kind of like hang our hat on, this is how I'm going to get referrals, because that's actually not how it happens. I think most people would agree with that. But it is, if it's something that is interesting to you and that you want to put, time toward, it actually does serve a really beautiful purpose. And what I'm hearing you say, it's connecting. So it makes you very visible because you are using your voice. You're very authentic in your posts. And you are very, you're also pretty clear about, and I don't know if you started out this way or if you kind of stumbled upon this, but who your target audience is, which is other, probably EFT therapists specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing, that if you're looking at setting up an Instagram account or a Facebook account, I think you do need to hold your target audience in mind. Like, what would they like to see? How could you be useful and relevant for them? So I sort of toyed back and forth with, do I make this more general relationships that anybody would be interested in if they're interested in attachment and relationships, or do I make it more therapist based? And it was interesting. The general posts I put out there get the same likes as the EFT specific therapist posts. And the ones that do the best are really specific EFT skills, like risk. That one, boom, I think it's one of my highest likes, the risk manner, where lay people wouldn't really, they'd read that and go, okay. But EFT therapists really, really know what that is. And same with, I had a post with a list of evocative questions and tentative conjectures, just like specific things therapists can say, and those ones get all the likes. So I thought, okay, I now know my audience. It's EFT therapists. Okay, I love EFT therapists. So I've made it so much more focused on therapists, as well as tools they can use with their clients, or little inspiring quotes that anybody will resonate with, but an EFT therapist will particularly resonate with.
This is such a parallel to the work of EFT. We talk about how in order to get, I promise this is going somewhere, in order to get, experientially kind of expand, you have to start very specifically, right? With
Yeah.
like cue or whatever. And so that's just where, maybe that's because I went to a training today, but that's just where my head is going, is that the more specific the target audience you have in mind, right? It's not just a therapist, it's an EFT therapist. It's not just an EFT therapist, it's an EFT therapist looking for interventions, right? Or different ways of seeing kind of the same thing that they've learned. The more specific the audience is, then the more specific the content is, like the higher engagement.
Yeah. And you get a feel for that by seeing what people like and what people don't like. And it's surprising sometimes. I'll make a post that I really like and it'll only get maybe 15 likes. And I'm like, oh, how can someone not like that one? Oh. And so then I repost it in a year's time and see what happens. And sometimes that repost gets heaps more likes, or it doesn't. And then I won't repost it again, even though I like it.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear you say that about the reposting, because that answers somebody else actually asked this question in preparation. They couldn't be here and they had this question, which was, for people who are kind of burnt out, right? Like, let's say they're managing a practice, supervising maybe, and now doing all the social media, and it's
Yeah.
like coming up with all that content. And
Yeah.
it's really difficult this is very difficult to hire out, because it is so important, your voice and the language and how, that sort of attachment lens, if we're thinking about an
Yeah.
EFT therapist. But whatever your model is, you've got a very specific voice.
Yeah.
And so how to make this more manageable. And one of the things I thought of, and that you just mentioned, is it's okay to recycle posts. You
Yeah.
don't have to come up with something new, and you have a new audience. So it actually, even if it's an old post, it really is new, and you can change the image. But any other tips, like if let's say that you do want to do this, but you want to be realistic about it,
Yeah.
and you want to be consistent, what are some good tips for making this manageable? Because it is very time consuming.
Yes. Yeah. I think I love to schedule posts. So if you have a flurry of creativity and make a whole heap of posts, then schedule them ahead of time. And that way it takes the pressure off. And the more you see something you like, or you think about something, make it into a post, and then schedule it. Like I schedule up to a year in advance, because I recycle and I have a flurry of creativity and make a whole heap and schedule them way into the future. And that way, if you're over it or you're feeling really burnt out, it's not a pressure there tapping on your shoulder reminding you need to do something. And that's, I think, really important, that it's got to be fun, or at least if it's not fun, it's got to be simple. Also, reposting other people's posts can be really good. There are some Instagram accounts that have heaps of followers and they don't create their own content at all. They just repost other things that they've found interesting. And so you can do a mixture of that, and that will at least keep you consistent, but not overwhelmed, hopefully.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good reminder that it doesn't actually have to be the most original, right? That it can just be, oh, you found that interesting, and so you literally just reshare it. And that's okay if that's all that you do, but it's keeping with what you want to hold true for your practice. It's still a mirror to, it's sending the message, hopefully, that you want to send. I think that probably wouldn't work if you were a bit all over the place with what you were resharing, but if it had the consistent theme, that message that you want to send, that general message. And I like that also, that you kind of you make sure that it stays, that it's not a chore, that when you get a flurry of, like when you get hit with creativity, you harness that. And then you schedule it out way out in advance.
Yeah, way out in advance. And then when you repost, you're reposting ahead of time. And it means that there isn't that same pressure to keep creating because I need to post something on Friday. Like if you're well into the future, then it takes that pressure off, which I think stops it feeling like a chore.
Right, right. Yeah. And I'm also hearing that you're just collecting data as you go, right?
Yeah.
Like if you got a post that does okay and it's kind of confusing to you, and then you post it again and it does better, and it's like, okay, well, it was just, the stars aligning, or it still flops, and it's like, well,
Yeah, that one's going in the back cupboard.
yeah, that's not one I'm going to keep reposting.
Yes, you do get a feel for your audience. Like mine are all sort of attachment based and EFT based. And then I have this one that is really quirky and weird. And it says, "My love is like a candle. If you ignore me, I'll burn your house down." Which is just really silly. And I posted the silly one and I put a comment saying, "I know this is a step away from my normal warm fuzzies." And it totally tanked. I found it hilarious. My audience didn't. So I won't repost that one.
Oh, that's so good to hear that example. Yeah, it's like you took a risk, right? You took a risk. You thought it was funny, but it kind of fell flat, and you were like, okay, moving on. Just not going to put that back in.
No,
Yeah.
it tickled me, but it didn't tickle my audience.
Right, right, right. Yeah, so you're really tuning into, what does my audience want? What are they asking for? What are they engaging with?
Yes.
And you're paying attention, and you're creating more content based on that, and repeating content based on that.
Yeah. So I would say choose your audience, think about what they want, think about your brand. That I think is really important. Like if you start up an Instagram page, you can make it look so nice and really represent you, and you can put information about you along the top. And then your posts, some people get so creative and they post in alternating colors so that your grid ends up looking really nice. I try and alternate a pink and a green and a pink and a green a bit because they're my main colors. But other people will make full-on patterns in their grid. I'm not organized enough to be bothered with that. But if you think about your theme, your brand, your colors, your logo, make it all a bit consistent. Like the red group, yours is so consistent. Oh, look, there's a coffee coming for me.
Yay. Look at that. It's just a hand too. It's not
hiding behind the door.
person.
It's 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, 8:23 in the morning here.
Well, yeah, you need that. You need that to wake
So
up.
yeah, I think your brand, like your colors, the theme, the feel of your page, like that is really important to me. I will tinker with a post until I really love it. And there are some that I've tinkered and I can't fully love it. And then sometimes they get lots of likes and other times they don't. But it needs to have a feel. I think your page, when people check you out, it needs to really represent what you want to represent. And so think about your target audience and what they want, and make your page feel appealing to them through the colors and consistency. I know when I see a red group post, because it's so consistent in the beautiful colors. Your grid looks really nice. It's clearly a red group. Same with that relationship show. All Deb's posts, I know that they're her, and you get to see it in a feed and in your newsreel or whatever it is. Feed, is it? I can't remember the lingo. But that becomes your brand, and the feel draws people to you if they're wanting what you're offering. So that's why I think you have to really think about who your audience is and how you want to help them, what you want to offer them, how you want them to feel when they visit your page or when they read your posts. And we're good at that as EFT therapists.
I'm taking notes as you're talking. So that's a big, big thing when we talk about branding. I think some people don't really know what that means, right?
Yeah.
And what, if that's just, let's say that's this huge umbrella, and that could take on a bunch of different forms, and depending on your industry. But what I'm gathering under this umbrella, specifically to social media, is that is visual,
Yeah.
right? So that's the colors, some themes, consistency. Maybe it's a font, maybe it's a, like just kind of a basic where your people can kind of know you without even seeing your name,
Yeah.
is what I'm hearing. So it's a recognizable, but it's also paying attention to how it's not just visual, it's also how people feel when they visit you.
Mm.
And so, that has to be very much authentic
Yeah.
to you, your
Yeah.
originality, your voice, which I think can be very daunting for people. I know that, and that's kind of a segue to my next question is, what about those people that are listening that are saying, okay, that sounds all great and all, but I'm not Claire and I don't have this extra energy, and I don't, like, when I sit down with a blank piece of paper, I freeze. I don't know what to say. I don't know if I have anything to say that hasn't already been said, or
Mm.
maybe I don't really consider myself that creative. For
Yeah.
people like that, that they do want to try, or they're at least interested, but then they just get kind of like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
necessarily see myself as, like, what is my voice, and
Yes.
how do I even start to create a brand? What would you say? And that's a big, big question, but what would you just
Yeah.
maybe start to say for somebody like that?
I love that question. I would say start with quotes, quotes that you love of Sue, of people who you admire. Like Brené Brown has the most powerful quotes, Maya Angelou, um, John Bowlby, uh, Carl Rogers, all our favorites. I just Googled Sue quotes, Bowlby quotes, and that got me started, because you don't have to find your voice. Find other people's voice who you really admire and whose ethos you follow. And then I would say, what is your logo? What are the colors in your logo? Why did you choose those? What do those colors mean to you? How do they make you feel? And make your post look like that.
Hmm.
And have your logo and your name in every single post, because if everywhere it goes, it gets screenshotted, and you put your logo and your name on every post, and just stick to the one theme. I would say use Canva. Oh, I love Canva. It's changed my life. I love Canva because you can make like a template. And if you have a color in the background from your logo and a font that you like and your logo smacked in the corner, that's it. And then just go find Sue quotes, Bobby quotes, Brené quotes, Maya quotes, anyone you admire. I've got Dr. Zeus. Be who you are and say how you feel, because those who matter don't mind and those who mind don't matter. I love that. So I hear that and bang, I put that in a post. So that's, I think, the easiest way to get started. Make a template in Canva that's ready to go. Find quotes, drop them in with your font, your logo, and make sure you always put the name of who said it. And then you're behind that. You're putting someone else's voice out there, but it represents you. You're saying, I'm aligned with this. This is something I value. I value it enough to type it in a post and send it out there. So I would say make every second post a quote from somebody else, and that takes all the pressure off. And then finding your own voice. What I started doing ages ago is just keeping a little list of therapy great quotes, little things that you've said with clients that you can see really resonate. Little things like taking the pressure off, or you kind of train people how to treat you by what you accept and what you don't accept. Like just a little thing that you might talk about with a client and explore. Just think about that afterwards and jot down a couple of the things that you said that really resonated for that client. Things like connecting with your values and how moving towards something that matters to you is really uncomfortable, and we support people with that. So just think about, how can I put that in a sentence, or 3 tips on achieving or working towards your goals even when it's uncomfortable. We would all work with clients on stuff like that. We would all narrow it down to a couple of things that we've given them for homework. Put that in a post. That's gold.
Yeah.
Anything that resonates. Yeah. And then you'll find your voice more.
Yes, I love what you're saying, that, okay, what the way that I hear this is, first, do what, like, kind of help yourself out. Do what you can to just get started. So take pressure off, right? Other people's
Yeah.
quotes, because
Yeah.
if you're saying I'm aligned with this, it's still you putting yourself out there in a way. And so do that half of the time, right? Have a template. If you have a logo, that's your basic for your template. And then this is the part that I really love, is you already have a voice. You just need to harness it. Like, you're already saying things to your client. You're already saying it in your way, right? So just kind of reflect on, a moment maybe in session, that
Yeah.
something, a way that you reflected, or a way that you sort of phrase something really landed with a client. And that's your post.
That's your post. Yeah. Things that you might say to couples that you work with, like just a little thing like, no wonder you have your defenses up. You've earned those. Bang, that's a post. Awesome. Or you might say to the more withdrawing partner, it's so hard to come out from behind that wall. I see how much you long for that, but it's scary, right? That's a post. And once you start thinking like that, you say great things all the time with your clients. And just one sentence will be a great post, or something you set them for homework to work on or to think about. Put that in a post as well. You'll start to see them everywhere then. And if every second one is your genuine voice coming out, that's amazing. That's awesome content. And if the others are quotes and things that you really value, then you've got great content. But make it easy by having a template. So you just go to Canva, drop in the words, and schedule it for a month down the track. And then that way you can take the pressure off. You give yourself permission then to stop if ever you need to, or to create if things are popping into your head.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is free advertising, right? Because, you can get a free subscription to Canva. I know it has limitations, but this is, it's really just a matter of your time. But this is a great kind of way to make yourself visible, make your voice more clear, and it may open doors professionally. It's one of those sort of indirect return on investment. It's not going to be quite as clear as a client says, I saw your post, I knew you're the therapist for me, and so I came in the door. It's usually not that direct, but there is return on investment, but it's a little bit more indirect.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say, while we're having this conversation, any of you that are here, if you have questions and that you want to ask, please put them in the chat and I will make sure that they get answered. But just kind of moving on, you had talked about, you kind of sort of answered this question already, but I want to make sure that we hear from you directly. What have you found is a good routine for content creation? I heard you say, I get a flurry, blah, 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 but do you have, is there any kind of a routine that you have where you're kind of keeping your eye on the ball and making sure that it's consistent?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because it's like we're really drilling down to the specifics, right? You've got your brand, you've got your audience, you've got some quotes, you've got some good things that you say. You might have some nice images you want to share, whatever fits the theme. I think that's all about targeting who you want to benefit from your account. And then how do you manage it on a day-by-day basis? I do keep an eye on it each day. I like to go in and make sure I'm liking the posts of the people who I want to support. Like whenever there's a red group post, bang, I like it. Sometimes I like it before I've read it because I know I'm going to like it. So I do keep an eye on that, and you can make certain accounts favorites so that they always pop to the top and you don't miss any of their posts. So that I like to do that to keep that nice two-way support going between people I want to support. And I keep an eye on how my posts are going. And if one post is going well, like I just, the one I posted yesterday was on attachment. Oh, it was an attachment reframe one. So that's when I'm not sure you'll respond to me, I feel like I don't matter to you. So about pursuers. And that one's got 30 likes. So I'm going to repost that. So I just keep an eye on it each day. I'll repost it for a year down the track because people those ones really go well, those attachment reframe ones. I made a whole heap of those, like 15 of them, of different attachment reframes in one complete flurry. And then I just scheduled like one a month for a year and a bit. And so now that one I'll repost. So I do check it each day. I look at how my posts are going and repost in the future and check other people and be supportive. And then in terms of creating, because I'm scheduled now a year ahead, I don't feel any pressure to create. And so what I do is I look through and I often get inspiration from other people's posts. Like Psychology Today, I love that. There's always these lovely bullet points and that'll inspire me. I'll look at that and think, oh, how could I look at that from an EFT perspective? Or how could that's a really great topic. Like they had one about just the other day about when you know a relationship's over, like danger signs. And I thought, ooh, that's good for EFT therapists. How could I use some of those suggestions and put it into my voice? So I get inspiration. When I get inspiration, I screenshot it and save it in my phone so that if I do have a creative flurry, I've got some of them there. And that saves me because honestly, I love creating the colors and the pretty pictures, but actually coming up with the content feels like a drag at times. So I keep photos of any other posts that inspire me so that when I do feel creative, I can go to that. Like I'm a bit weird, but I'll sit in bed on a Sunday morning making Instagram posts. My husband thinks I'm a bit odd, but I will go to my photos and I'll look at which posts I've screenshotted and go, oh yeah, I could play with that. And so then I've got inspiration when creativity hits.
Okay, so you kind of store up inspiration, right? Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You had something else?
No.
Okay.
No, I think that's it. I think scheduling ahead takes the pressure off, and then I don't have to create every day. So that really helps, I think.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to kind of maybe summarize what you said to make sure that this is sort of your routine. So you have a daily check-in, and you
Yep.
make sure that you're engaging with accounts that you want to support, which I love. Every time I see that you like ours, I'm like, right back at you, babe. I just really, and it's genuine. I mean, I really do feel, because yeah, I think that's one of the wonderful things that we talked about earlier that this can do is if nothing else, it just, there's camaraderie, there's kind of support, but back to what I was saying, you check in every day to interact, kind of keep those relationships warm. But you're also looking for inspiration. And so if there's something that somebody else has posted and you want to kind of put it in your own words, you'll take a screenshot of that, you store it away. And then I don't know if you have how often, you were saying you're scheduled so far out that it doesn't feel like pressure. But every now and then you do kind of sit down and take from your stash of inspiration and actually write out content for the future. And
Yeah.
a certain like, how do you decide how often to do that?
I don't. I just wait for creativity. And that's one thing I've really noticed about creativity. Like, I'm a goal-focused person, laser beam focused, and can obsess about something. So when I started with Instagram, I went nuts creating so many posts. But now I'm laser focused on several other things. Instagram just ticks along in the background. And so I feel like with creativity, if you force it, you actually can block it. So I try to not worry too much, that I'll have a creative moment and make a few posts, and that moment will come, and that I don't kind of worry about forcing that, because I do think it gets in the way.
I think there's a good lesson there. There's a really good lesson there. I think that's part of, I think I'm going to take that with me, because I have tried to do this monthly where I sit down and I write for the next month. And some of it's original, some of it's recycled. But sometimes, I mean, it's not all, it feels definitely like a chore sometimes. And so I really, really appreciate what you're saying, is that, to not, especially since we don't, this isn't like a very direct return on investment, right? So exactly what's the value? So if it's not fun,
Yeah.
then maybe it's not worth it. And so really waiting for and harnessing when you do have that creative energy, when you do have that space, and that's when you just maybe kind of get a bunch out. Okay. And then just kind of letting it not be so rigid is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Does that feel right?
Yeah.
So you guys, I just wanted to say hi, and my name is Renee Siegel, and I'm like Instagram friends with you, Claire, and with you, Kelly. And I'm on I own a clinic just like Kelly does. It's called Evolve Therapy. And I just was done. I'm just finishing the day. We were just teaching core skills, and I'm like driving home, and I just wanted to say hi to you guys. And I'm going to just add, I do the same thing. I have a social media I have a person who does my designing, and she gives me the sheets, and I'm like, and I have to do 2 weeks at a time. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know what to say anymore. And then sometimes I'm like, I have lots to say, or I collect things, like I have a John Bowlby quote, or sometimes it'll be something that happens in a session. But and then sometimes I use your guys' for inspiration. I'm like, oh, they're talking about therapy or whatever. But it's really fun. And I have to tell you, Claire and Kelly, when you guys like my stuff, I'm happy. I'm like, oh, my EFT friends. I mean, seriously, it's like, and Claire, when you first came on, I'm like, oh, this is another EFT person. So I just wanted to say that, and I'm going to be driving, so I'm probably going to turn off my camera, but I'm so listening, and I love doing this. So sorry, I just want to introduce myself to everybody. Thanks.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you popped in, and yes, thank you for that. And that is, I think that's what we all need to hear is that we're all struggling with this. Like we're trying to help each other here, right? Because that's the reality of social media. It's fun when it's fun, and it's a chore, when it's not fun. And so but there is this kind of pressure to have a presence. And I think we all could say that we see value in that and that we don't argue with that. But it's like, how do we make this realistic? So thank you, Renee. I really appreciate, you just kind of after a long day, just being here and popping in. Claire, were you going to say something?
I just had another thought about about making it easy, because one thing that I did, particularly in the beginning when I was making lots of content, I had lots of ideas and I was noticing it everywhere. It's like, you start painting and you start seeing colors everywhere. Instagram, I focused on that and I could see ideas everywhere. So I kept a list. And in session, if you say something that resonates, just write it on that list. Keep it on your desktop so it's really accessible, and just write it out, because you'll forget it later. And if you've got the words there, it's so much easier then to just drop them into a post. So if you have a document somewhere that's really accessible, and anytime you have a thought while you're driving or after a session, just jot it on that list. Call it Instagram ideas. That's what I still have that. And it's alive. I think, oh, I must do one on attachment injuries, or I must do one on sitting with discomfort, or mindfulness of the breath, or I don't know, like anything that comes to mind. Put it on the list, and then you've got it there when you do have a creative moment, but you don't have to do that arduous work of thinking, how do I say this and how do I fit it into a small space? And half the work's done.
That's so good. Yeah. So you kind of have a bank and you just keep adding to it when it's and you make sure that the way that's another thing is the system. I think that's half the battle. So even your system of adding to the bank has to be easy. It has to be realistic. It has to be something that, if you have to create something brand new in order to make this happen, then you're just not going to do it. So what are you like, what's easy? Maybe for some people it's a notebook, maybe it's a note section on your phone, maybe it's a voice memo to yourself, but what is it that you actually would do? And then it's like you're helping your future self. I love this.
I love that idea, helping your future self. Exactly. So you collect inspiration, you jot down words, you keep it somewhere, and you make a template in Canva that has your brand and your color. Then you're helping your future self. Just pop these posts. Yep.
Claire, post it. You use that. Post it. Help your future self. That's what's up.
Oh, I must put that on my list.
That's your next post. You're welcome. Okay. So we have covered most of this. I want to, I've got one other question that we could go to, but before we go there, I just want to see, Claire, if there's anything that you want to tell us from your experience. And again, I just want to kind of reiterate, this is not for people who are trying to be influencers. None of us are trying to be influencers. All we're trying to do is have a presence. We're trying to do our best with our busy lives. This is, for those of you that are trying to be influencers, we're probably not who you need to be listening to. There's something else out there for you. But if you're just sort of like normal practice owners, and you do want to actually do something and have this presence, and you want it to be easy, but you also want it to be authentic. You want it to be your brand. You want to, maybe kind of even use this to evolve. It's giving you some really, really great practical tools. But is there anything else, Claire, that we're missing? Is there anything that we're not saying, or, and then if you guys have questions too, I'm open.
Yeah. Some advice I got was, with your bio, put emojis in it and keep it simple words on each line describing you and what you do, but use emojis because they look like bullets and it grabs people's attention. So mine says something like EFT trainer in EFT, author of a book, like it's just sort of bullet points so that when someone comes to your page, they see exactly who you are. And I think that was golden advice. Some people's bios just look like just a string of words. They're not visually appealing. They don't grab your eye. Instagram is all about visuals. And so those bullet points on your bio, I think, are really important. And it's the one spot where you have a link. Like Instagram just, it will not let you put links to outside websites or YouTube videos. It's so annoying. It's like a closed circuit. So you've only got one spot for a link to your website. So make it count. And that, I would say, make your website then consistent with your Instagram so that when someone clicks on that link, they know it's you. So my website that is there has all the same colors as my Instagram. And so it's very consistent, so they can see you're legit. You're not just trying to sell them something. And the other thing I would say is use your posts on multiple platforms. Like I've had this creative flurry and then I've hoarded these images that I kind of love them all. Like I get emotionally connected to them in making them really pretty and authentic. And so I use those. If you go from Instagram to my website, what you'll see is I've put all my posts on there in the resources section. If you then go to the ASEFT website, which is for my EFT training, there you'll see a whole heap of my Instagram posts because they're so handy. So on the therapist resources page of the ASEF page, I've got all therapist tools. And then on the about relationships or EFT resources for relationships, I've got all my general ones. On my clinic website, then I have 3 websites. It's a bit ridiculous. But on my clinic website, the posts are all recycled as well. And in our diversity page, I've got all diversity posts that I've ever posted in the past on that website. So they're there. People can see them. It makes your website look really pretty. And when they click on them, it opens up and they can download it. So that's kind of cool. So, and then thirdly, you can use them as resources in your sessions. So we've got a few of them printed out on the wall in our clinic for people to take. And people love them. I am so surprised. They go like hotcakes. So people like having something in their hand. And if it's really pretty and authentically to you, and then they show their friend, you're using that one post on your Instagram, on your website, in your clinic, in your client's hand. And then thirdly, I have got so excited because I can convert my posts into presentation size and I use them in my training. So I have gone crazy with making my training slides really pretty. It's a bit over the top.
No, I've been a witness to that and I've really appreciated it. And you get comments every time. So there is something to say for being visually appealing, that it's actually a nice way to integrate the information. That if there's a visual that sort of represents the essence of what you're saying and it's pleasing, it actually helps to integrate the information. And when you said multiple platforms, I thought you were going to talk about Facebook, Twitter, blah, blah, blah.
That too, yeah.
But this is I think this is actually more helpful for therapists, because what you're saying is website actually on the walls in your office or a handout in session. I mean, that is brilliant. So then now I think now I kind of see more of a point to actually investing in time in creating these posts. I mean, thank you, Claire.
Kelly and Claire, I have to tell you, my designer, I've been on this for 3 years. And what she did, we went out to dinner and she created a book of our posts. So we have a thing that we do, it's Wednesday Wisdom, where they're just like comments, things that I say. And she created a book and it's in my waiting room and people love it. And then someone said to me, will you publish this? I'm like, I think she just did a Shutterfly book, but I think the clients love it. And then I even had an old client who followed me send me an email and say, are you writing to me on Instagram? And I'm like, no. But I think a lot of this, like they say, the most public is the most personal. But so this is just a little like coffee table book that we created, and it's a cheap thing to do. So just to add to that, that's what we've done, and people love it. We call it Wednesday Wisdom. That's what,
Love
and
it.
that's what our posts are. So that's an idea. But I love the idea of putting some of the posts on my website. I'd never even thought of that. That's a great
Do
idea.
it. And it looks so good, like a mosaic on your website. It looks amazing and so worth it. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that you've got it in a coffee table book. I've thought about actually, look at this. One of my clients made this for me, and
Wow.
it has all my posts in it.
Oh my
And
goodness.
she
Wow.
made this. Isn't that awesome? She downloaded them all. And I want to do this, but I couldn't find how to do it. So if you can tell me if Shutterfly is good for doing that, I'll look that up. But she just made this like a photo book, bless her. And I love it. She made two of them, one that has therapist tools in it and one that has more general posts. And oh my gosh, I love it.
That is so brilliant.
Yeah.
Chat books is another, I use chat books for my family's scrapbooking, but now I'm like, oh, because it's super easy. But that's and actually chat books will pull from Instagram. But you can all, if you ask it to, but you can also choose, pick and choose. And so it's not this automatic pulling from. These
Oh,
are
good to
genius.
know.
These are genius ideas. I'm so grateful for this conversation. To me, it feels like now I have more of a sense of the point to
Yep.
this in a very practical way. The value added, not just for us professionally, but for our clients potentially. For connection, we wouldn't be having this conversation if we didn't get to know each other in this way. Renee, you too.
Yeah, I always like Renee's Evolve posts.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, I'm telling you that like when you guys like my posts, I'm like, oh, here's Claire in Australia liking this. And I mean, really, I didn't really know Kelly until Instagram. And I feel like, EFT makes the world smaller. And I have supervision when I was, becoming, trained in EFT and all that stuff. But I think this is like, we have a really nice community of EFTers. And I have a supervisee from Mexico who found me on Instagram, and she's an EFT person, and she's like, she found me on Instagram. So I think there is something really positive about the social community event. So I didn't mean to hijack. Sorry.
No, it's beautiful. That's another thing I would add is choose who you follow, and because that is telling. Like when people visit your page, they might look at who you're following. And so I would say separate your personal account from your professional account. And in the personal account, I look at lots of dogs and horses and children in snow and stuff. And I don't want that in my professional account. So I follow intentionally. I looked up every EFT therapist I could find who was providing content that was really EFT, and I followed them. So be really selective with that. Don't just follow anybody, because it will shape your account, and that then will allow you to get great inspiration in your feed without having to sort through lots of rubbish. You just want those good EFT consistent posts, and then it'll work as inspiration and make it more enjoyable to work with. I think it's cleaner too.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a good thing to add in there. There's a lot of intentionality here, and there's a bit of a learning curve, but I want to go back to Claire, what you said about, so if you're listening and maybe this is like, starting can feel overwhelming. I want to go back to what you said about starting small and making it reasonable and manageable. And that, if you could just share what other people say and search other quotes that you like and you align with, start there, start with your logo, start with those colors, start really small, and then maybe just kind of let it evolve and try to make it manageable to where you're not having to come up with all of this new content every week. right? But you've got an easy way, an easy system where you can kind of harness your creativity when it comes, not force it.
Yeah.
And then from there, help your future self. And all of this is so good. And then, you know, kind of getting into the specifics of really what this can look like. That's very exciting too. But I looking at time, you know, we've got just a couple minutes. Any last words, Claire? I'm so grateful for you and kind of who you are to this community and also to the larger EFT community.
I think you just did the best summary ever. What a good EFT therapist. It was a beautiful move 5. Nothing to add. I would, other than give it a go. It can be really fun. And it's so nice to connect with other people. That's what I've loved about it.
Yeah, I think give it a go is exactly right. You know, if you have any kind of inkling at all that you want to try this, just give it a go. Do it in a way that is you and it's realistic for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Well, guys, thank you for being with us. And we will see you next time. I will, of course, keep you in the loop with the emails. And, you know, if you have any questions or things that you want to hear about, please email me and I'll be sure to keep that in mind as I plan future meetings. And don't forget, this is a free group. And so if you go to superpoweralliance.net, at the bottom of the page, you can give to, there's 2 ways to give, HRC, the Human Rights Campaign, and also EFT in Ukraine. And so those are there for you at the bottom of the website. I'm grateful. Thank you all. Have a good weekend. Have a good December.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Claire, so much. See you guys next time.